Well, hello everyone. And before we start, I really need to do our intro music. There we go. Sorry about that. Julie, welcome to the show. Technical issues, always user error. Um, Lovely to see you. I was really excited about this conversation today. I know you and I have been working together for some time now, but when we talk
Yes.
about what's happening in the world of talent, we always talk for ages. So before we dive in, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone?
Absolutely. And thank you, Sam. This is awesome. So I really appreciate this. Um, all right. So a little bit about myself. So I have spent my entire career in the talent space, all about people. I started in executive search and had some really great experiences and opportunities to create new service lines and whatnot. Opened up my own business, which I really loved, and it was partially human capital consulting as well as search. At the time that I did it, though, we didn't really have the same tools that we have right now. Like right now, Sam, I feel like we're sitting in the same room together, right? Which
Mm.
is great. So you can build a community, and even though you're across the pond, I feel like you're right next door. So before, everything was travel in person, which was great and complicated at the same time. And building a community was a little bit more challenging. So I moved into corporate, where I had the great fortune of working with companies that were going through growth or transformation or change, build out their talent acquisition organizations as well as their talent functions. How do we bring people in? How do we make sure they're thriving? How do we, retain and develop and engage? Um, and always knowing in the back of my mind, I wanted to go back and work for myself again. So when the opportunity came about, I did a lot of research. I talked to a ton of people, some people who made the decision to go on their own, some people who said, yo, it's not for me. And I knew I wanted this community. And I decided to do it, but do it a little bit differently. And so my focus and where my name of my company comes from is I'm all about optimizing people. And when I was telling somebody that, they were like, "Well, that's your company's name, OptiPople," and that's where it came from. So yeah, so I'm super excited. I'm doing what I love, and yeah, and we have been working together for a while, which I really appreciate your community that you've built.
Oh, Julie, thank you. And it's interesting, isn't it? That piece that you were just saying about the complications we used to have about
Yeah,
always being together and what that meant. And what I hadn't really appreciated before is when I look at who I now work with, where they're based, 10, 15 years ago, that would have looked very different because there were so
yes,
many more barriers in the way in terms of that mindset of we've all got to be in the office at certain time. So we could only have people who lived in a certain area. During the London days, the commute was easier, but in latter years, you'd have to have a car in order to be able to get to the office. That's the piece that I really love. I think that diversity of talent, how has that impacted your world and what you do?
that's a great question. I think, well, first of all, from a recruiting perspective, I've always had that flexibility to work remote at various times in my life. The joke was always, you need a phone and a laptop. That was it. Um, so, I've hired people from St. Kitts on my honeymoon. So,
Wow.
you just, yeah, the Wi-Fi wasn't really great, neither was the internet, but we did it. Um, so I think it's changed a lot, and I think that like the world has learned, the business world has learned that you can work remotely, right? And I think they're struggling with it now.
Yeah.
Because of COVID, everybody worked remotely, and there was a lot high level of productivity. And there is kind of this push pull and this tug about doing bring people back in the office 5 days a week. Is hybrid going to work? Um, I think it's changed the talent landscape from a lot of respects. If you think about it, if you're a company that hires remotely, the pool of talent that you have to source from is really wide, right? Because I can recruit from any organization that demands their people are in-house 5 days a week or hybrid. I can recruit from anywhere, like out of any company. So I think that's changed things a bit. And I think for positions or skill sets that are high in demand, low in supply, and are regionally based, it's also changed things, right? So I may want somebody physically in the Chicago area who can do certain things, but if that population is in California and they're earning X plus X, you know, I can't manufacture them here. I may get lucky, but I can't manufacture them.
Yeah. That's really true, isn't it? And God, there was so much in there that I thought, oh yes, oh yes. Uh, the piece around that, the manufacturing people in the right area, the piece around um, you being able to find people in different areas. People like you are really leading the way because you get it. What challenges are you having with organizations and clients who perhaps still don't get it? How are you having to educate them in terms of you've got a wider talent pool now? And perhaps my next part of that question is that must also be impacting the job titles and the profiles that you're being asked to hire for these days.
Yes, which brings me kind of to a different way of looking at it. Um, the titles to me are less important than what the person's being asked to accomplish, what the impact is that they're being asked to make, right, on the company. And I do try to help leaders think about it that way. So when you read a typical job description, it it's very task focused,
Mm.
right? But it doesn't tell you everything. So if someone would have told me 100 years ago that I was going to be dialing for dollars when I went into executive search, I I wouldn't have taken the job, right? I mean, I'm like, seriously, I'm going to do that. I actually thought I was going to be coaching people. That's another story. But so I think one of the things that I have helped people think about is what is the real need? What are you trying to solve for? Not just today, but tomorrow, right? So there is a need today, perhaps because you have a vacancy. What are the other people on the team doing, and what do you want this person to do? We'll figure out what the right title is or what the right profile is, but we first have to really assess what the need is. And I think there's a knee-jerk reaction that if somebody leaves, I'm going to replace that role. And getting people to pause and then think about, but since I hired Susie Cream Cheese, I've hired six others, right? So now the work has kind of shifted and changed. And what I have to try and accomplish by the end of the year is this, right? So my need is different. So how do you get them to really assess that?
That's, yeah, that's fascinating. And I can see that the kind of mentality of, and so many of us have it, right? And we have to break that habit. We've always done it this
Right.
way. We've always had this role and we're busy, particularly with organizations. When I look at this time of year around holidays, we've just had Thanksgiving, going into a new year, that whole piece around we're busy, we need to find a replacement. How are you breaking the cycle?
of needing a replacement.
Yeah, to your point earlier, just because they've always done it that way doesn't necessarily mean it's the right way. And you being able to say, this is more about the outcome you're looking for and what you need this role to do, rather than the job title that you've always hired for.
Okay, so I'll give you an example. I was working with an organization that was going through transformation, and they were going through transformation in their technology group. They, without going into all of the details, right, they had some attrition, a lot of attrition. And part of it was, and so they were like, we got to hire a bunch of people right away. So I'm like, okay, let's talk about what's going on. So part of it was understanding what happened with the people that left. What kind of work were they doing? And part of it was like, how do you ultimately measure the success of this team? So we worked through a number of different scenarios, right? So what were they doing? Was that what was really needed? Were they feeling stuck? Some of
Mm,
the dynamics in the culture, and then worked with them to really understand that what they needed was a little bit of a different skill set. They needed to build out a whole different function within their technology group, and they didn't have the right skills for that. So their immediate reaction, I'm hoping that makes sense. Their immediate reaction was to go external. But before we did that, we took a look because they did have attrition, right? We took a look at their current team. Is this a build or a buy,
mm,
right? So we were able to kind of figure out that we were able to move some of those people into this new role. There would be a ramp up, there would be some training needed, which is great because that tells their employees that we value them, that we want to invest in them, that we believe in them, that we want them part of our future. And we were able to replace them at a lower cost of hire. So, yeah.
How challenging did you find that initial piece to really put, if you like, put that mirror up with them to say, come on, everyone, actually, we got to break this cycle? Or were they in so much pain they were ready for it?
I think it takes time to break the cycle. When somebody, a lot of times the challenge with people is and this is part of the pivot for talent acquisition. Talent acquisition is often thought of as a transactional group, when in fact it's really more of a strategic arm that partners with the business. Just like we have HR business partners, we should have talent acquisition partners as well. So I think part of it was making sure that they were partnered with recruiters who really understood kind of the why behind the what. And when you can start having conversations with them about what they're trying to accomplish, then you start building your credibility. You start making that pivot into being more strategic, and you get heard. By the same time, you're also demonstrating that you're listening to them. So I understand this is what you want to do, but you know, let's talk about where the gaps are,
Yeah, I love
and
that.
let's,
Yeah, that piece, that listening piece, we often talk about it, don't we? And I know, Julie, you and I have spoken about it frequently, how that's a game changer when you listen and then put that mirror up. So yeah, sounds like you were able to make a difference. And sorry that you've come up as LinkedIn user, whoever you are, I apologize, but great points. Um,
yeah,
conducting a needs assessment or gap analysis is one of the ways I go about it through the consulting phase. And I think, Julie, you've just demonstrated that really nicely there, in terms of a needs assessment can sound so cold, can't it? But actually, it's some of it can be done through the assessments, the conversations, the interviewing, the really getting under the skin of it as well, which isn't always easy to do, is it?
Well, no, and another person just commented about a talent strategy, which is part of what I do is help build out an integrated talent strategy. So it's not just about getting people through the door, it's about the entire life cycle of that new employee, right? And so if you don't have an integrated talent strategy, then you do have a lot of risk in multiple areas. And you don't necessarily have a strategic foresight about what you're trying to accomplish or who you're trying to hire.
Yeah, exactly. And it's KJ. KJ was trying to say, hey, but wasn't able to. Lovely to see you and great to have you in the conversation. Join in, KJ. She was brilliant in the club the other day, if you weren't there, Julie.
Yes.
Absolutely awesome.
Yes. No, she was. She was awesome. Yes.
So, Julie, big changes have been made, much needed over the last 4 years. And I think all of us can agree. What do you see is on the horizon for some? What are the kind of conversations you're having, and what do you think businesses really need to be thinking about as we're going into another big year?
I think a couple of things. I think how are they going to use AI? A lot of the conversations I'm having are around AI and around skills-based hiring. Hybrid always, that's a constant. But around AI is how do you leverage AI in talent and talent acquisition in a way, in a productive way? Like you can streamline a lot of your processes, a lot of high volume, repetitive tasks, things can be taken over by AI, which allows recruiters to focus in on the strategic work of sourcing and partnering with business. Um, from a skills based hiring, that is a totally different thing. And I do think some leaders are having they're trying to digest what this really means. I view it as a way to democratize access to opportunities that people might not normally have because perhaps they didn't have the ability to go to college. Or maybe they didn't go to the best universities. They went to the universities that they could afford. So, is it really about the education or is it about the experience? And skills-based hiring is really focused on, your experience and the skills you bring. So, I do think that's another, area that, well, I know it is that we've been talking a lot about. How do you implement that? So, and when I take a look at a lot of executive leadership teams, they all didn't graduate from Harvard. You know, a lot of them went to different schools, a lot of affordable schools. Doesn't make them any less of a candidate than someone who went to one of the Ivies.
Exactly.
So those are the two topics I think that are pretty strong. In addition to, like I said, hybrid, and I think DE and I.
Yeah, well said. More of that, please, for sure. You raised an interesting point. And I know, Judy, you probably heard me say this and KJ a few times, which is I remember listening to a talk in Nova University in Lisbon, Portugal. And part of that talk was, as universities, we're dying out because no sooner have we trained someone, what we've trained them, coached them on is redundant. And we all know how expensive universities now are. Wouldn't it be great if we offered a subscription whereby people could come in and learn those new skill sets? And when we look at the technology we're using, I'm not sure when Restream started, but it's something very, very new. And yet we seem to have been using it for ages. Our note takers or our AI note takers and everything
Oh
else.
yeah.
To your point, how are things like aptitude and the ability to learn going to really influence how we hire in the next even year to 18 months?
That's a really good question. So aptitude and the ability to hire,
And the ability to learn.
or the ability to learn. I I think that, you know, how is it going to impact? I think you have to be open to people who bring in. I think there are untapped talent pools out there that we're not that are ripe with people who have like great experience. Why is my thumb up in the background? Um, sorry. That people have like really great experience, but we're not tapping into them because of preconceived ideas. And I think that there has to be a shift in everything from the C-suite down in terms of what constitutes a candidate, like a great candidate for this role. And it goes back to like what we were talking about earlier. What is it that you're trying to do? What role do you really want them to play? What kind of impact do you want them to have? How are you going to measure success? And, maybe somebody with experience who has done something similar or something tangential, you know, would have that ability to do that. At the same time, how do you look at your employee population and build bench strength?
Mm.
So just because how did I get into talent from talent acquisition? Well, it sounds like it's a normal path, but it's not always a normal path. People look at you as a recruiter, you're a recruiter, right? So how do you move across? Well, I've worked for leaders who have kind of that broad perspective of building bench strength. And even so, I should be able to move somewhere else in the organization if I have certain skills, right?
Mm.
So how do you build bench strength? How do you, I'd rather somebody stay with the organization and move to another department than leave and bring everything we've taught them to somebody else. Regardless, I want them to be happy and they got to follow their dreams, right? Hopefully it's with the organization. So I
Yeah,
think, yeah, I don't know if I answered your question right, but
you did. You did. It's, yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting, particularly for someone of your expertise and experience. That advisory and the strategic piece is now just more important than ever. And again, I know it's something that we've all talked about, but to your point earlier, what are the skills you need? Exactly. Thank you, KJ. I completely agree with that. The ability and willingness to learn the new technology, AI,
yes.
and new ways of working with newer generations, Gen Z, etc., will be crucial to the business success. I absolutely agree with you, KJ.
Yeah. Your example of like Restream, I've never used it before, but we're using it now. I couldn't imagine not having my note taker with me. And you know me, every time I see a tool and a free, like, give it a shot, I'm in it.
Yeah, I
So,
love it.
yeah, I mean, there are just so many things out there that can make our lives easier. Why would we avoid it?
Yeah.
I'd rather focus on the strategic and the advisory and the impact that I can make as opposed to the manual processes or working in multiple systems.
What would you say to a business owner or a budget owner who perhaps is listening to this in the holidays, once we've put it up on the podcast and YouTube, etc., who is looking to just do business as usual next year in a very competitive market? What would your advice to someone like that be?
I think I'd want them to take a look at, like, by doing the business the same, does that mean that they're not going to be growing or changing, like you have to continue to evolve if you want to continue to grow. I don't know many businesses that are like, you know what, we did X that last year. That's cool. We're done. Let's just do that again this year. I not met anyone like that. So there might be, but I don't even think you could even be expected to do the same as what you did last year if you don't evolve. My father
Yes.
used to tell me that, like, if you think that you can do the same every year, you will die out.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Absolutely agree with you. And Julie, what's your hopes and dreams for your business in 25?
I want to continue to build out. I've had, in the short time that I've been open, I think that I've had some great clients that I've been working with, helping them hire people, helping them streamline processes and, consolidate into, maybe one or two systems, helping to kind of rescue projects that sort of got derailed from an ATS perspective, um, and coaching people. So I want to continue to do that. I want a mix of the search and the consulting and advisory piece. And I want to continue to build my community of people that I can continue to learn from, that I can continue to hopefully contribute to. And I want more clients. I mean, definitely, you know, so I want to continue to build.
I love that. Julie, tell me more about the coaching piece. What would you like to achieve from that? And what are the kind of projects or outcomes you've been working with people to achieve through your coaching?
Through my coaching, there's a couple of different areas that I've been focusing in on. One of them is on the people strategy. I, I've been working with somebody who I give them a lot of credit for saying, hey, this is not my forte. I know I need, like I keep saying, and I said to him, you keep saying you don't have the right people. I don't know. Do you not have the right people? Let's talk about that. So I've been helping him kind of get a very clear view as to his current state and where he wants to be and what that organization should look like and where the gaps are, to the point made earlier, like a gap analysis, right? But helping him to figure out what that I could do it for him, but the best thing that I can do is help him be able to do it for himself. So how does he really create the right kind of workforce plan
Mm.
that will help him achieve what he needs to achieve by certain mile markers? So I've been helping him think through that. When it comes to, like, do I have the right people or I don't have the right people, that's a prime example of he does have some good people, but maybe some of them aren't in the right roles. So let's take a look at why we hired them, what it was we thought they could do, what the real need is, and perhaps create a different role. I've done that a lot in my past, where I've walked in and very quickly said, you have some great people doing the wrong things. Let's make a shift, right? And then they're awesome. They're still there. Um, you know, so there's that, and then figuring out what we want to hire for by when, because if you need them to be productive by a certain point in time, when do we start doing it? What are we looking for?
Mm.
Get everything prepared now so that we can just launch. So I've been helping him with that. I've been helping somebody else, more from the career side. I recently helped somebody who wanted to make a pivot from, actually, this is in healthcare, from a clinical healthcare. She's been in that kind of a role for her whole career, and she wanted to completely pivot out of it. Um, Not very, and she's an introvert. And so we worked together on it, and she did make that pivot. She moved into a different organization, into an administrative function, and she started 2 weeks ago. So to
Oh,
me, that's like a
wow.
huge success. I'm so happy for her, right? And somebody else who he's looking to take his career to the next level and he's not exactly sure. And he's pretty senior right now, but he's not exactly sure how to promote himself because he's not someone who, like, you have to be willing to boast here and there. So
Mm.
we're working on that, right? So yeah, so what do I want to achieve? I like helping people. I like helping people think through things. I like connecting people. Um, I want them to be able to do it without me, right? But sometimes you got to teach them, and then they have the tools to do it on their own. They'll come back if they need more help.
Of course they will. And y- you can tell you've got their best interests at heart. It, it's very easy to, it missells the wrong word, but to take advantage. And I know how much that coaching piece means to you to be able to help these organizations make some of these, they're not even tough decisions sometimes, but to be able to plan in a world that's just moving so quickly.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's, you may not respond favorably to my suggestion initially, but maybe you'll think about it, and then we'll have another conversation. And if that's the case, then that's success on both our parts, right? I don't
Exactly.
expect anyone to hear me the first time and say, "Oh, I'm going to change my entire workforce plan because Julie said so." I mean, that would be really nice, but that's not going to happen, and I get that, right? But they're going to think about it, and we're going to have the right conversations, and they're going to push back, and I'm going to push forward, and we're going to get there.
I love that. Quiet determination done with pure grace. Nice one, Julie. Now, Julie, I've got some really important questions to ask you. And the first one,
Okay,
are you ready?
I think so. Yes.
Excellent. What is your favorite cheese, please?
So my favorite cheese, it's raclette. Have you ever heard of it? Raclette?
Love raclette. So we Brits say raclette. So I know
Oh,
exactly what you
raclette.
mean. Being married to an American, we translate daily to each other. Um,
Okay.
love that. Tell me more. How
Yeah.
is that your favorite cheese?
So my husband and I have been going up to like upper northern Michigan for, as you would say, 11 billion years. And
Oh, thank you.
um, there's some great places up there. And there's this place, Leelanau Cheese. I don't know if it's Leelanau Cheese Factory or Leelanau Cheese. I don't know. But we went up there and I love cheese. And there's very few I don't like. And they had raclette cheese, and that's where I found it. And every year when we go up there, I get like these huge wheels. And yeah, and they have different flavors of it now too. And the guy is brilliant because he only makes so much. And then once he's done making it, he shuts down, he's done for the winter. He's done. He's I'm done working, and that's it. So
Julie, I feel a pitch club coming on at this place.
yes, I think so.
Oh,
Yes. And Brooklyn would
brilliant.
go up there. She's like from she always is up there. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. So my next question to you is, what is the worst film you have seen this year?
I have a unique talent for forgetting names of really bad films,
I mean, I think that's
but
that's very, very wise.
yeah, I mean it's a useful skill. But there is, and it wasn't a movie, it was a show or a series, and it gave me the creeps. And I know it was well done, but Baby Reindeer, I just couldn't finish it. I just couldn't finish it. Did you see
N-
that?
No, I did. Was that on Netflix?
I think so. I also can't remember what channel anything's on, but yeah, I think
Yeah,
so. Do you know? Yeah.
I've heard that one. I've heard that one's a yeah. So I am going to save a couple of hours of my life by not watching that. Um,
Yes.
so Julie, this one is a very important one and one very close to my heart. We all know how much I love swimming and swimming pools and that sort of thing. And what a ridiculous child I am when it comes to flotation devices. What flotation device would you take on holiday with you?
I think I'm torn between two that are completely opposite.
Hmm.
My knee-jerk response was one that I could lay down and have a drink and just float away. But
Oh,
then I thought I would rather maybe I would be like and this isn't a flotation, but you know the one where you bike in the water and you can kind of
oh yeah.
go, yeah, see, because I can't really sit for long periods of time, so maybe
So
that's what I'm
you're
saying. I have
going.
two different ones.
Oh, I love it.
Hmm.
So you're going with the um active like pedalo thing.
Hmm.
Sharon, I agree with you. I
Hmm.
travel to the Pitch Club for cheese. So that's brilliant. KJ, a pool noodle, hands down. With your pool devices, Julie, what is the colour, please?
Um, I think for one of them it has to be purple for my husband for the Northwestern Wildcats. And for the other, I'm thinking the first color that came in my mind was pink, and I don't really know why.
I love
I'm not
that.
a pink person. Yeah,
It's been around me too much, you
pink.
see, Julie. I'm rubbing off on you.
Yeah, yeah. I need some bright colors in my life.
Well, we can source that for you. Julie, you have been a fabulous member of the business club for some months now. What would you say if someone asked you to describe the business club and what are you getting out of it?
First of all, I think it's been a godsend to me. Um, I remember the first time that I joined. I remember first meeting you. I have learned so much from you and from everybody in the group. I feel like I am part of a community.
Good.
I'm working for myself, but I'm part of a community. And I know that at the drop of a hat, I can call any one of you guys and you're there. And vice versa, by the way. I hope you all know that you can call
Oh,
me at any point in time. And yeah, I mean, it's like I look forward to these calls.
oh,
Yeah,
Julie, thank
absolutely.
you. Thank
Yeah, you're
you.
awesome, Sam. Yeah,
Oh, shucks, my
yeah.
head won't get out the door tonight. Oh, trouble out. So, Julie, if someone has listened to this today and thinks, yep, she's my gal, how do they get in touch with you?
My website is www.optipeopleresources.com. My email is julienoe at optipeopleresources.com. And my phone number is 847-778-1323. So, yeah.
Okay. Do you want to give your email address just one more time, just so people, if they didn't get to write it down the first time, can
Yes,
take note of it?
Julie, Juli, at optipeopleresources.com. I probably should have picked a shorter one, but I didn't.
Oh, I mean, I have not got a leg to stand on this one, Julie. So I'm just going to zip it on that one because actually I think yours is remarkably short. She says, making sure no one asks her hers. Um, Perfect. Julie, thank you so much for coming on today. There was so much just in terms of some of the work you've done. I learned so much about you today. I know not to buy you now just a static flotation device, but to make sure that we get you something with pedals. So that's good to know. And we're all going on a cheese tour. So Sharon, we need to come to your office first, and then we're going to go with Julie on this cheese tour. But all joking aside, Julie, thank you so much for coming on. The breadth and depth of
Thank you,
knowledge
Sam.
has been brilliant. So thank you so much. Please reach out to Julie. She genuinely really knows her stuff when it comes to the talent strategy. And I really wanted to have her on the show. She's very good at hiding her light under a bushel, but she's such an open and warm and giving person. Please reach out to her. And if you haven't got her details or you missed them, reach out to me and I will connect you. So thank you everyone for listening today. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you all really soon. Stephen, thank you so much. See you everyone.
Thank you.